Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. I am Phil. I am the only host here this time, but that's all right
You're not
because
alone.
not me. I mean, not my just regular crew, but I have an extra special guest, Mr. Travis Richey, who you probably know from every other show on television at some point or another.
A couple of shows.
I said every other show on television, probably.
Well,
Please,
hello.
please,
I'm sorry.
you said you were looking at my origin. I was looking at your IMDb. I mean, I was scrolling. I mean, we could spend the episode just going through your resume here, sir.
I have done a good number of things, but I would say only a couple things that people actually watched. But, that's a lucky thing for an actor to be able to say they were on shows that people watched and liked. So that was pretty good. Do you want
Um,
to tell people what it was in case they don't know me?
I mean, I know you're on Community, Pretty Little Liars. I saw the events.
Are
Is
you
there any?
familiar with the event?
I've seen the commercials. It's on my list. You know how, in the age of streaming, everyone has that list. They're like, okay, I'm gonna get to this, I'm gonna get to this. The events is
You
like one
don't
of the
have
ones.
to. It was a fun promise of a show that didn't materialize into an actual satisfying show.
Really?
Unfortunately, it was one of those in the wake of Lost.
Mhm.
Everybody wanted the next big mystery show, and the problem with the event, one of my favorite roles, because I get shot in the back of the head after the opening credit or after the opening scene, but no, they never said what the event was. Like, in my personal view as a writer too, after the pilot episode, you should know what the event is, right? Like, after the pilot episode of Lost, you know that they're lost, you know? And at the premiere of the event, this airplane transports itself to another place, and you're like, is that the event? Is alien contact the event? Is the appearance of this alien planet in orbit around the Earth the event? It could be, but anyway.
Do you need the origin of stuff like that? Because look how The Walking Dead, they don't tell you how the zombie apocalypse happens. It just
No, but you
happens.
do. The title has the premise of the show in it, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, that proves my point. Thank you.
Touche. All right. So,
So
so you said something about my origin in podcasting. So
yeah, well, I noticed that in your podcast description it says that you were a Flash and Arrow podcast, and I have two things that lead up to one thing that leads up to that. But my very first big success as an actor was auditioning and getting a call back for Lex Luthor in Smallville.
ooh.
Back before I ever moved to LA, I was living in Minneapolis, and I guess they did a big wide search, and that was pretty cool.
Wow.
And then I actually got called in to audition for Barry Allen in The Flash. And
Really?
so, yeah, which was really cool because I was thinking at the time, and I think they were doing a broad search, and certainly I was too old for what they ended up casting him
Mm.
as. But I was thinking at the time that they were going for more of a John Wesley Shipp type, which was one of my favorite shows growing up,
Oh,
that
me too.
'90s
Yeah.
Flash.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking, and I was super excited about it. But they didn't end up going with. And I was really bummed that they never gave me like another role in the show somewhere. Uh,
Oh, yeah. What do you any of the villains they introduced or just
Right? I would have
yeah.
loved to have been a villain, especially with the community cred. I was hoping that might parlay itself. The problem with that is shortly after I did the back-to-back recurrings on Pretty Little Liars and Community, my agent killed herself, and
Oh, man.
and my career stalled completely for a number of years. Um, so yeah, I think that put the kibosh on me really making good use of that momentum, unfortunately. Did we start this off on a bad note? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I just don't that I know why we're here. We're
Life
here.
is full of tragedy, and it's all about how we react to it, right?
Yes.
I have not stopped myself, and one of the reasons I'm here is I've parlayed a lot of my energy into writing, and so I guess we'll talk about my book eventually.
Oh, yes. Yes, of course. But the one thing I did want to ask you, I did see on your resume, so you do some stand up too, correct?
Yeah, back in the day, most of my focus has been sketch and improv, but I did for about a year stand up, performed at the Laugh Factory and Flappers and a couple of places in LA. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I
I have a good
yeah,
tight 10.
I always thought that would be interesting to do, but I'm like, I don't think I could come up with an act. I don't, and then just the memorization, especially with the nerves once you're up there.
Oh, you're wrong. Well, first of all, the thing that people think of is that, stand up is more what's the word? Not contemporaneous. Yeah. But in the way that I mean like contemporaneous speaking, right?
Mhm.
Where you're just kind of off the cuff. It is generally very scripted. And like when you watch a good stand up, like John Mulaney is one of my favorites. All the little ticks and quirks that he has in his routine, they're all scripted and rehearsed and practiced. And so, uh, yeah, I think you could probably do it. And the other thing about stand up is that the best stand ups talk about personal stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so everybody has personal stuff, and it's about finding the personal stuff for you that other people can relate to. And therein lies the funny.
I mean, I have a wife and child, but again, I could just see this stand up act.
Nobody has who has children. I don't.
I know, but I
That's
was
not
gonna say,
relatable.
knowing me, it would come down to, well, there's this funny thing happened on the podcast the other day, or
Well, I mean, there's something funny about that, about a stand-up who's like, his whole thing is because the truth is everybody has podcasts. I have a podcast. I mean, to be fair to myself, I was podcasting back in 2006 when it
wow.
really meant putting it on an iPod, but which is where the name comes from, everybody, if you didn't know. But yeah, no, I currently do a podcast with a friend of mine called Exposing Ourselves, which is pretty nice because I do love a slight innuendo in a title.
Yeah, I mean, most of mine. I mean, it's nice when we get to do interviews. A lot of mine, we talk about, well, superheroes mostly. A lot of
Hmm.
comic books. When there's a new movie out, we talk about TV shows and stuff. But
Yeah. Yeah, I am a giant. Comic books are one of my origin story.
oh, really?
I started collecting comics, but when Superman died, um, and around the same time as Superman number 500, I was in a gas station. I was probably 13 or 14, and I saw an issue of Spider-Man 2099. I think it was issue number 8,
Oh,
and that combined my childhood love of Spider-Man and my sci-fi love, and I was like, oh my god, this comic is made for me. And it was written by Peter David, who has, I had already read a bunch of his other stuff, like I
yes.
was already into Star Trek, and he wrote, I think, Imzadi and a couple other Star Trek novels.
Mhm.
So I was like, this comic book is made for me. And it was all over from there. I just went crazy. Every dollar I got, every gift I got was, please give me comic books. Uh, and I spent through college, I spent much of my student loans, anything that didn't go to classes or room and board, went to comic books. And so I almost looked up tried to find my collection because I was very fastidious about keeping track of all the comics I owned.
Yeah.
And I have a document somewhere that lists them all out. But I haven't seen that in
You know
years.
what? I've for years I've been scanning everything I have. I keep it on a separate hard drive, just like a scan of the cover and stuff. But there is an app
Wow.
now where you can just, you just like take a picture of the barcode or whatever. Yeah, and I just have
Yeah,
there's an
there's
app.
apps for everything now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was I my collection ended at a time that predated apps. So,
Oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, we sound about the same age. Yeah, I started collecting when I was 10. I think, my mother was just like, oh, at least he's reading something. And
mhm.
that, and now it's just grown to the point it's never stopped for me. So now it's at the point where my wife's like, there's too many comic books in the basement. I'm
Yeah, yeah, I get
like,
that.
I'm like,
I
it could be
did.
never be enough.
My parents were not as understanding, unfortunately, because I was up to that date an avid reader
Mhm.
of books, and so I was reading things like The Hobbit at age 7 and Lord of the Rings at 10, and stuff like, well, trying to read Lord of the Rings at 10. God, what a wordy book. But the but I loved like Stephen King and Michael Crichton and those kind of things when I was late single
Mhm.
digits. And so my parents didn't understand the perceived downgrade to comic books. And yeah, I never told. I became friends with Len Wein in the years before he died, which was kind of an amazing thing for me as a comic book
Mhm.
nerd. Like I was invited once because of the Inspector Spacetime thing. I went to a convention and ended up meeting Melinda Snodgrass, who was a writer on Star Trek Next Generation. So I, of course, knew who she was, and we started talking. And she invites me to a party at Len Wein's house.
Oh wow.
And yeah, my first reaction was like, no, not that Len Wein. And she's like, yeah, that Len Wein, creator of Wolverine and Swamp Thing and many other beloved comic book characters. And so I went to Len's house for a summer party, and everyone was there. Like the executive producers from Batman the Animated Series, and Bear McCreary's over there, talking about doing the music for Battlestar Galactica, and so many people that I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm meeting you. And then like Len's wife starts talking to me, and she's like, her name is Chris. She's brilliant. She's like a Jeopardy champion. And she goes, hey, we do this supper for, LA orphans. You should come. And I was thinking that it was one of those LA offers. I don't know if you know LA people, but there's this thing where you're like, oh, we should totally hang out. And then you never do. But then they followed up with me, and they're like, are you coming to dinner? And I was like, yes, I guess I am.
Wow.
So then I was eating dinner at their place every Sunday for years,
Wow.
and then Len died, and
Wow.
so I'm actually doing Thanksgiving there this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be me. If I ever got any kind of fame, they'd be like, you want to meet this A-lister? I'd be like, no, I want to meet like, Brian Michael Bendis or something. I don't know. Just I'd be
I
like,
know,
hey, man,
right?
all the
Writers are
kids.
the best, man. I
Oh
love
yeah.
knowing writers.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've talked to so many creators, like people from the '90s. Like I talked to Peter David.
Oh, I would love to meet him. Brian Azzarello is a favorite. I've never met
Yes,
him.
yes.
I got his autograph once, but that doesn't count.
I mean, once a month, one of my co-hosts and I talked to DG Chichester, who wrote Daredevil for a few years in the '90s, like every month. And I'm like, 14-year-old me's head would have exploded if I would have known.
I talk about 14-year-old me all the time.
Yes.
A lot of times in conjunction with like, I'm an actor and I've done some fun stuff, but I am by no means a famous actor, and I'm not really what I would consider to be a huge success or anything. But I will remind myself that 14-year-old me would go crazy over the things that I've done. Like, I have been on TV. I've my YouTube channel's been viewed by, like, not a huge amount by YouTube standards, but I got about 4 million views, and like that means 4 million people have seen my YouTube stuff. Like that's crazy to me. And
Exactly.
I have to remind myself of those victories, when I'm picking up a second job at wherever to pay the bills after a grueling and hard fought actors and writers strike. I must say.
Oh yeah, the writer strike. I mean, it's sad. We have to wait for a lot of our favorite movies and TV shows, but I know we've all like, you know what? It's worth it. Let these people get paid what they deserve.
It was existential this time, really. I mean, we were talking about having a system that allows people to even make a living, and if you can't make a living, then I mean, the quality of the work certainly goes down.
Well, yeah. I mean, for what I heard, isn't even just like people were just struggling to get hours to get so they can get paid healthcare and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful to, like, so many of us want to be creative people and have a job as a creator, but the ability to make a living as such is really tough. So, I'm still hoping for that Star Trek future where just everybody can do what they're passionate about.
They're gonna say no money and fancy jumpsuits.
Well, yeah, no, because money doesn't matter, right? That's why
Yes.
everybody can do what they are passionate about, right? If you want to go make wine, go make wine. If you want to be an artist, be an artist. If you want to explore the stars, do that in a paramilitary organization.
Yeah. And then one of the other issues I think for the strike, I mean, there's new stuff that came up. I mean, wasn't AI part of it, where it's just like let's
Huge part.
hammer
Well, and that's
hammer
that's
out
the
to what
existential part.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what they're doing is they're trying to get when it's so and college students are doing it already, where they're writing stories and essays using Chat GPT or whatever, and I have tried playing around with Chat GPT and trying to say, hey, tell me a story about this, and then you say, now do it in the style of Shakespeare, and then you can refine these things, and they're not good, right? But they're impressive, and someday they may be good, and that studios would much rather pay nothing to have a computer write a script than pay a writer X amount of any amount of dollars, really, to that script. And so that's why I thought that I say that the fight this summer was existential for creatives, for writers and actors especially. And they want to replace and they were already, you may have heard this, they would take a background actor, for example, hire them for a day, scan them in this 3D camera rig,
yeah, dude,
and
yeah.
and make the actors sign over the use of their likeness for all time for no money. So it's like, well, there goes, and the vast majority of actors who make a living do so by doing background work. You can actually make enough to make health and pension and a pension doing background work.
Well, yeah, I mean, luckily, I think people are waking up to what the higher ups like to try to do. Because I mean, like our passion comic books. I mean, the creators of Superman. I mean, they died basically penniless, but like broke.
Yeah. So I think that's I think it's important for society in general to see the importance of creative people before they die.
Yes.
And we do have our idols, our celebrities, but they are the 1% of the 1% of the entire population of creative professionals. So
yeah, I think some of us who aren't in the industry, and I think the awareness, the strike helped raise awareness, because I think some people in this country thought, oh well, if you're attached in any way to any movie or TV show, you must be making some good money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
not always the case most of the time.
Well, what is true? So, for example, I'll be candid about this, but like my best year of television was I shot 5 episodes of television, which is great. But you get paid, let's say about a little under $1,000, but let's say $1,000 for 5 episodes of television. That's $5,000. That's not enough to live on, and you can get residuals. So I've probably gotten maybe $3,000 total for each episode of Community that I shot, which is great because you have some longevity after you've shot something. But and you look at these older actors who are on a TV show for 7 years, but then can't get cast in anything because everybody knows them as the mom from Growing Pains, and they can't do anything else. Well, Joanna Kerns is a national treasure. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean. And then they depend on their residuals in their old age to survive, to actually live, and so residuals have gotten decimated in the age of streaming.
Oh, really? I thought I was going to say, did it go? I thought maybe it would go up. I mean,
no, because back when streaming started, actors negotiated a contract, and the streaming companies said, "This is experimental. We don't know if it's going to work. We need you actors to really help us make this work by not charging us for residuals." And actors were like, "Okay, but only until we see if it works or not." And of course, now there's no DVD sales, there's no home video at all. It's all streaming, and there's some network television and there's some cable, but streaming is pretty much it. And there are almost no residuals. I shot a episode of television last year for a streaming service, and I got paid a little larger than my base rate, which is about $1,000 that we talked about. So I got paid $1,500 for an episode, but no residuals. So that's the entire, and they didn't pay for things like costume fittings and table reads and things that you would normally get paid for on like another show just by earning the base rate. So yeah, streaming is a racket.
So
for the studios, and that's another big thing we were fighting for. And the contract sorry.
No, I was gonna say no. So if we just want to help with residuals, pick up the Blu-rays, pick up the DVDs, then.
I don't even own a Blu-ray player, so I mean,
Oh.
if anybody's like me, that's not really even an option.
I mean I
Um,
mean, yeah, I know if I love something enough, I wanna get it on Blu-ray and, because again, with streamers, you never know when they're gonna pull it, it just
yep.
could be
I
coming.
know, right? That's the other thing. Like whole shows are getting canceled when the promise of streaming was that like you'll have the entire catalog at your disposal.
It'll all be up there forever, yeah.
Yeah, but that's not the case. We're learning. And movies that are actually made can get canceled without ever being seen just for the tax write-off.
Exactly.
It's all the business of it is kind of gross in a way. It takes away the creative aspect, and I don't know. It's difficult. It's a tough time to be a
Yeah,
creative. And
yeah.
and this actor's contract that we just got is pretty good. It's a good improvement on what we had, but it's not by any means addressing all the things that we really hoped to address. So
But it's a good
it's a
start.
tricky one. Yeah, it's a good start. So right now all the actors are deciding whether to vote for it, and there is massive discussions going on both yes and no right now. It's heated.
Hmm,
If you're in any of these actor conversations that I'm in.
hmm. So, like, how long I mean, again, I know nothing about the industry, like, how
Yeah.
long are, like, these how often do they negotiate these things?
About every 3 years.
Okay.
Most of the I think everything that I know of, the writers, the directors, the actors are all 3-year contracts, and the actors have different contracts for different things. So for film and television, there's one contract. For commercials, there's another contract. For daytime television, there's another contract. Um, and so, like the net code or network code agreement, which covers like daytime talk shows and stuff like that, doesn't come around until next year. So
Mm,
that wasn't up for renegotiation, which is why people like Drew Barrymore were going to go back to work without the writers because they were still under a valid SAG contract,
mhm.
but they got backlash for not including their writers.
Hmm. You know what? I've always thought, I've thought the last couple of years, I'm like, "Well, you know what? We need some kinda talk show where it's like it's like nerd pop culture. It's like comics, movies, TV, someone just hosting the show. I mean, maybe you the man to do it, but I'm just
Yeah, I would love to do something like that, and I'll bet it would get an audience. And I feel like if you look at some of the cable channels like G4 and those kind of things, they were doing stuff like that, right?
yeah.
And YouTube is a great source for that. So I wonder if maybe the more tech savvy people that we're aiming for would even watch a show on television, you know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, do it on a streamer, do it somewhere, because I mean, just,
Well,
I mean, even if it's just, do humorous takes, explain, like, the MCU to, the average movie-going fan
yeah, that's
who has
interesting.
never read a
Well,
comic before.
yeah, that's a similar. I mean, so what my podcast, not to be self promoting, but
Oh,
my
no, please.
podcast, exposing ourselves, is a similar concept, not necessarily about nerd stuff specifically, but like I'm a big movie buff, and my friend from college is a big music fan, but he doesn't watch movies, and I don't listen to music. So what we do is we assign each other the thing that we
Oh.
don't know every week. So he gives me a band to listen to, I give him a movie to watch, and then we come together to discuss it on the podcast. So we could easily do something like that with nerdy stuff, comics or
Or
movies.
or have we all killed that idea because it's like, we all have podcasts now, so it's like, oh,
Well, that's part of the other
if you
problem,
have
right?
if you
We
if
all
you're
have
looking for
podcasts
something or you have a
or
specific
YouTube
interest,
channels or
there's a podcast,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My difficulty, my little challenge is that my co-host has already said that he doesn't like uh superhero movies,
Oh.
which I'm supposed to be giving you my favorite movies and I can't give you superhero movies? Like I tried. So early on, he let it slip that he really loved The Incredibles and he loves animation. So I'm like, "Aha, here's my chance." And so
Mhm.
I assigned him Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, right? Which
Oh,
is an Academy Award winning
yes.
animated film, and it happens to be a perfect movie. And he hated it. Like I thought it
Really?
was my in, but he hated it, and
Huh.
I was a little devastated. You should listen to that episode. It's my devastation is palpable. But
Wow.
and so from then on, I have been very, very wary about diving back into the superhero genre. We did just talk about Dread, which was
Oh.
interesting. He didn't love it, but he didn't hate it.
Hmm.
And that is technically a superhero. Oh, it's a comic book movie,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
wearing him down.
I mean, the tide has kind of shifted because I don't know. I mean, you probably experienced this. I know when I like was in high school and some people were like, "Ew, you read comic books? Why do you read comic books?" Now it's like, you walk into work and it's just like, "Oh, hey, did you see the new Marvel movie? What was that? What was that?" Everyone's asking me questions. What was that? What
Yeah.
was this character? What was that? What was that?
But let me ask you this. When you were a kid, didn't you know already? You're like, but nerds rule the world.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
like I was fairly comfortable with it. I was like, I don't care. You dumb jock aren't, you're not gonna have much longevity. You're gonna be stuck in this town when I'm off, being in Hollywood.
It's just read something. Read one.
Yeah. Yeah, just try it out. Well, and the thing is, even then I was looking back at the movie that made me passionate about movies was Terminator 2. Like
Oh,
when I saw that, it just switched something in my brain and I was just obsessed. And but looked back, and prior to that, if you looked at the 10 highest grossing movies of all time, 8 of the 10 were all sci-fi.
hmm.
It was all the E.T. and Star Wars and Back to the Future and those kind of movies. Um, so I was pretty comfortable with my nerddom.
Yeah. I mean, sci-fi. It makes you think. I mean, it makes you think in different ways.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I love Star Trek. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'm not unforgiving of its shortcomings, which have been, we've had a hard stretch where there wasn't much good Star Trek, and even then, when we got Star Trek, it was only okay.
Yeah.
But luckily now I think is a great time. We've got Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds, which are fantastic and
Yes.
really are both kind of going back to the roots of Star Trek, where you're talking about you can have dialogue, you can have people talking to each other. Man, some of those old Next Gen and Deep Space Nine episodes, even Voyager, you don't get that anymore. That kind of like two people talking about a dilemma
Yeah.
and working it out. And like, mm, I love that kind of writing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I love Next Gen and Voyager, but oh god, that first season of Next Generation. Ugh.
Yeah, it was finding its footing, and they were dealing with
Yes.
a lot, But I was watching a video recently about those skorts, those dress uniforms that
Oh
they gave
yeah,
that they
yeah.
had
The
the men
first
wearing
season,
too.
yeah.
Those were not long for this world, but Lower Decks has them, which this is why I love Lower Decks, man. They do not leave any pebble
Oh
unturned.
no, I mean, are you caught up on Lower Decks?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, they ended the season on Nick Locarno. I was like, you bring in Robert Duncan McNeil and have
yep,
him be Nick Locarno.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So good show, good show.
Yes, let's get Travis on there.
Yeah, seriously. I happen to know someone who's one of the series regulars, and I
Oh,
was like,
nice.
I want to, I don't want to like ruin our very kind of casual friendship by being like, "Hey, can you please give me a like put me into the voice casting, whatever." Uh, I would love to do I would love to do animation. I've been doing some animation auditions, a lot of
Oh,
them in the last couple of years.
nice.
Just it's a
Oh
tough
yeah.
business to break into. So
Because I mean,
we'll
you
see.
get, I mean, so I mean, the good, the good voice actors. I mean, they take what, like 20, they'll do like 20 jobs if you can do different voices.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I've been getting auditions for the same shows, right?
Mhm.
So that's always a good sign when the casting director brings you back.
Oh,
Uh, so
Because I mean that I mean that's good working if you get it right. Because I mean,
Oh yeah,
as long as your
yeah.
voice maintains, I mean, you could do that the rest of your life.
Oh God, yeah. I met Nancy Cartwright at a show that I did a few months ago, and she's delightful. She's just wonderful. But like, I'm looking at her and I'm like, wow, you're Bart Simpson, and you make $1 million per episode, and like
You've been
that
doing it for
is,
30 some years.
and you've been doing it for 30 years. What is your life like? Like, what? Who? What are you? Like, what? I just want to like know you. But yeah, she was a wonderful person to meet.
I know that whole thing is crazy because I'm trying to get my son into watching The Simpsons. I'm like, it's been on since I was like your age. It's nuts.
Is that crazy,
Yeah,
right?
I
To
know.
be, but you know what? It's not that much of a slog because you only really have to watch the first 10 seasons. After that, it's the occasional Halloween episode.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while, so yeah, but
Neither have I. I tune in every few years to be like, is it funny now? Oh, no, it's not funny now.
all right. So, all right, I've held you off long enough. All right, so the reason we are here, kids, is Travis has a new book out. So, tell them about it's a vampire book. I love vampires.
Do you really? So do I.
Yes.
I am what I call an equal opportunity nerd. I love all sorts of nerddom without being super obsessive about any one kind. So, but I've always loved vampires. I think they are a really cool what do you call them? Species? Genre, I guess. Anyway, but I have seen vampires done well and I've seen them done awfully. And
Yeah.
what I did is I came up with a concept for a vampire story back in 2009. And I originally was going to do it as a movie. And the big change I wanted to make to the mythology was to make vampires more realistic. So make them more biology based and like kind of rooted in our world, right? So the first thing I took away was anything supernatural. They can't fly. My vampires can't turn into mist or transmogrify into an animal, or they're not. They have reflections. Crosses do nothing because crosses are just things.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was step one. The second thing I did was I'm gay and or queer, and I have often been given thought to the idea that that the percentage of gay people in the world is about 1 in 10. That's an old kind of estimate, and now we know it's more of a spectrum, and so it's hard to delineate numbers
Yeah.
like that. But that 1 in 10 number stayed with me, and so the book is called Decimus, which is Latin for 10. And so that's how you remember it, folks. And well, actually, the series is called Decimus. We renamed it when we put it out because my publisher was like, "So this is going to be a series, right?" I was like, yeah, sure." So it's the book is called The Vampire's Curse. It's the plural possessive of vampires, for the grammar nerds out there. And the other big change I made to the mythology is that when a vampire turns a human, it happens in the same way that you do on True Blood or Interview with a Vampire or whatever. A vampire drains a human of all their blood, gives them some vampire blood, and poof, they're a vampire, right? In my universe, that only works about 1 in 10 times.
Oh.
The other 90% of the time, the human dies, right? And that has to do with, that's just like I was thinking about, well, if it's essentially a contagion, right? It's
Mhm.
some sort of viral something or that you're passing on to your from host to victim.
Yeah, and you're
Um,
basically changing, like radically altering the person's
Exactly. It
DNA
didn't
and
make
stuff.
sense to
Yeah.
me. It didn't make sense that would work every time. And so and especially if I was taking away the supernatural, then you're talking more biology. And I was like, aha. But that opened up a huge kind of Pandora's box of drama when you talk about a vampire that falls in love with a human.
Mm.
Because then what do you do?
Do you
Like,
risk it?
do
Yeah.
you risk it? Or do you live with that person and have a life together, but have to watch them grow old and die like the Highlander?
Oh, nice.
Or do you send them away and then spend your life alone, especially if you're a gay vampire, because then the vampire race, because of this, they call this kind of 1 in 10 dilemma Decimus. That's what they refer to it. But you've got this 1 in 10 dilemma, and so the vampires are fairly rare in this earth. And then you're a gay vampire, which so you're 1 in 10 of that already rare population. So you're pretty alone. So
Hmm.
if you happen to find love, sometimes you're powerless to act against it, right?
Yeah,
And
because
so,
I mean, yeah, I like this because that's the rap on some of these other like vampire stories. They're like, oh, why are they so down and depressed? They can just make a companion and live eternity, live it forever and
yes, you've
stuff.
got
And
the
it's just,
world to choose from.
yes, I like this where it's like, yeah, the process is not so easy.
Mhm. Yeah. So, so that's my story, and it centers around, the main protagonist is also gay and was originally going to be something I would have cast myself in back in 2009, but I'm aged out of the role now. I would play the villain. There's a really cool villain
Ooh.
character who I won't ruin, but he's pretty cool. So uh, yeah, it's I like the book. Look, I've always been a writer, but I've never been a writer first.
Mm.
If someone made me choose between being an actor and being a writer, I would choose being an actor. But I've always loved being a writer. I wrote my first two scripts that I ever wrote back in high school were spec scripts for Star Trek Voyager.
Oh.
Um, that stands for speculative script. So you write a script, and at the time, Star Trek was one of the only shows that allowed
Hmm.
anybody to send in a spec script. So they would read your script, and they made a lot of those just scripts sent in by fans, and a lot
Yeah.
of the people like the Ron Moores of the world, the Renee Echevarria, and those kind of people came to Star Trek by sending in a spec script.
Yeah, I thought I heard it wasn't like the last season of Next Gen with some spec scripts people sent in.
Oh,
I thought
probably, yeah,
I thought they had used
absolutely.
some of them. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, they used them from I think they started that process maybe season 3,
Oh.
but they were doing that the whole time. Yeah,
Hmm.
and Deep Space Nine had a bunch, and yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
like I said, I love Voyager. Who's your favorite Voyager character?
Voyager, I would have to go with the Doctor. Although
Oh,
you know
nice.
what, I do love Janeway. She's a badass, and especially knowing that we avoided getting Genevieve Bujold as Janeway to get Kate Mulgrew.
Yes.
Uh, man, Kate Mulgrew
Oh,
just
yeah.
nailed that role. Like
Oh,
she
yeah.
knew what genre she was in. She knew that character needed to be. She knew what it needed to be. But I'm a big fan of the Doctor. I've had an opportunity to work with Robert Picardo a
Oh,
couple of
really?
times. Yeah, he's a great guy. If you know Community, I played Inspector Spacetime on Community. We did a web series that is, for legal reasons, not the Inspector Spacetime web series. But if you search for Inspector Spacetime web series, it's what you get. I can't help what Google does. But Bob, I call him Bob because Bob Picardo and I are
Yeah.
friends now. No, but Robert, he goes by Bob. But Robert Picardo was in the last episode of the web series that we shot, which was supposed to be kind of a proof of concept for the second season,
Mm.
which we never got funded. But then we decided to do a movie because then we could get investors instead of donors and like hopefully make some people some money. Because I hate asking people to donate to things, especially
Yeah.
to web series, because you're essentially asking them to donate to something that's going to be free for everybody, and then you have to make up all these incentives and perks and whatnot. It's
Yeah.
dumb. But to ask people to invest in a movie that will hopefully make them money, that's a much easier sell.
Mm.
Anyway, so Robert Picardo was in that, and he's great. I was hoping to have him be in the movie, but we never got the movie funded.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's the next book. By the way, is coming out. That the novelization of that movie
Oh.
is with my editor right now.
Oh, wow. So
Yeah,
so are you an author now? I mean, are you feeling
I'm a
the are
published
you
author, dude. It's
Yeah,
great.
I
It's
was gonna
so
say,
weird.
are you feeling it or were you just like, I need to write another book, another book, another book?
Well, that is the pressure. I mean, and I do feel that because now I've got two series that I need to do. So I've got to do this Decimus series, which is at least a 4-book series, and then the Inspector Chronicles series, which is at least a 3-book series. So yeah, all that on my plate. And my publisher wants 1 per series per year. and I got a lot of stuff to do. So
are you writing those concurrently, or are you just like
no.
working one and
Well,
then
I
the
mean,
other?
I always have a dozen ideas floating around in my head, and I've got like TV pilots I want to write and all sorts of stuff. It's really finding the discipline to sit down and do it. That's the problem. And I find that really hard to do at home because there's too many distractions. I really love writing in a coffee shop. I think that's there's a reason that's a stereotype, and it's because you kind of get this white noise of activity around you that somehow helps you focus. So, but I did also adopt. You can't see her in the camera, but I adopted a dog when the writer strike started. So I've got her, and so I don't want to leave her at home. So that makes things tough, you know.
So if you become if the author thing takes off, would you ever give up acting, or are you like, no, I'm an actor, I'm always going to be doing something in acting?
Well, if the author thing takes off, I would parlay that into giving myself options for acting. So I have, things that I want to produce, have produced, TV shows and web series. Web series that should be TV shows. I'm just shooting another one right now called Time Wrecked, which is a time travel comedy, which is so good. And we just shot the first episode, and we're hoping to use that to try to get funding for the rest of the season, which may end up being a Kickstarter. I don't know. But it's really funny and should just be a show on Paramount Plus or wherever, even though I just ragged on streaming services, but that's
hey,
those are the places that are taking risks right now.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only game in town right now, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the only game, but I feel like
One of the biggest right now.
networks and even cable companies have a hard time taking a risk on a relatively unknown creator like myself. Like, even though I've been around for ages and you can see all my stuff and you can see that it's got a fandom, they're unlikely to take a risk on me unless I've already worked in a writer's room and worked my way up through that process. But maybe that's a possibility. I would take that. Like, if someone offered me a job, on the writing staff for, say, Lower Decks or whatever, I would absolutely take that.
I mean, I don't know with networks. I don't know if it's just them taking chances on certain writers. I think it just seems like it's so formulaic in networks now. They're like, do you either have a remake of an old show, or do you have the 50th new cop procedural show?
Procedural, yeah. I do think there's a little pressure that they're feeling to be original. You're seeing some stuff on network. I guess I don't even know if I can say that. I have a hard time knowing what's network and what's not. Like, like what was on, I don't know. Like,
Well, it's
what
so
was
weird.
actually
It's
shown
so
on
weird because
CBS.
even the networks, it's kind of like like NBC will have a show, and the next day it'll be on Peacock. So it's kind of like both.
Right. And then, so if I'm watching it on Peacock, does it matter?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there is a push to be a little more inventive for network television in order to compete with the streamers and the Netflixes and the Amazons, Apple TV, man, their content is freaking top notch, right? HBO used to be the place to go for high bar quality entertainment, but with the purchase by Discovery, I think it's common belief that has taken a little bit of a dive. Although HBO still has great stuff like what's the Pedro Pascal show? Well, that was based on a video
I was
game.
gonna say, I know which one you're talking about too.
The mushroom zombies.
Yeah, I know. I exactly. Yeah.
Why can't we figure out the name of this thing?
I'm not. I haven't.
It was the biggest show last year.
Yeah, I know. You said Pedro Pascal show. I was like, which one?
Yeah, I know, right? Isn't he everything? I heard you guys
Mandalorian.
talking about the Reed Richards thing, and that's
Yeah.
been whatever. I love Pedro Pascal so much, but I also want him in the things that are right for him.
Yeah, do you think now it's like they don't like, I don't want to say, I mean, he's a great actor, but it's like, it's not that he's right for the role, it's that he's such a big name now that it's like we just want big
Maybe,
names. Because sometimes that takes me
maybe.
out of it. Sometimes I want like a lesser known guy or
Yeah,
woman who I don't know.
right.
I can be like, okay, that's Reed Richards instead of, okay, I see Pedro Pascal on the screen in a
Yep.
Fantastic Four costume.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly because and you know, it almost doesn't matter. Like we don't really have movie stars anymore, right? So it doesn't matter as much who you cast as long as they're good. But I guess recognizable names are still valuable. I
Mm.
don't know. I guess that's just me being an unknown actor, being like, yeah, hire some unknown actors, right? Um, but I I don't know. There is one example of a person who was miscast who ended up defining the role for like decades. Do you know who I'm talking about?
If I had to guess, I was gonna say I know the guy who again, this is probably personal experience from my childhood because I just loved him in this role, but I know when he first started, everyone was like, Michael Keaton for Batman, that's never gonna work.
That's a really good example. Yeah, that was a lot of controversy about that. But I think Hugh might think of a different actor. I'm thinking of.
Oh, yes, Wolverine, Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, completely miscast for the role, right?
Yeah, and now now everyone's like, bring him back, keep bringing him back, keep bringing
Keep
him back
bringing
until
him
he
back.
drops
Yeah.
over dead. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but Hugh Jackman, I think that's a great example of someone who, you know, he took ownership of the role and defined it for for a
Yeah.
generation,
Mhm.
and so that's a good. I just noticed that this is episode 314. This is Pie episode. That's great.
Yes. Yes.
Huh? Interesting. I the number 304 is my secret number, my little Easter egg number that you can find all throughout my books and TV shows.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah.
Sorry, that was a tangent. I did
No,
I
no, no, no,
derail
no,
you?
no,
I
no.
like your train of thought went off the tracks. You're like, what is this guy talking about?
No. Okay. No, I just feel bad now. I'm gonna let you go here soon because I'm like, he's got two books to write. He has some other projects he has to
Not
do.
tonight. I don't. Tonight I am going to bed. I had a day on set today that was long, and uh, I'm ready to
Anything
go.
you could talk about, or or is it gonna be
I
one of
just
those?
have a day. I have a day job on a talk show.
Oh,
And this we talked about extra work, and they had me. They threw me a bone, and like they had an extra job available on the show. So normally, when I'm working on a show, I'm a stand-in, and once the show starts, I don't have to be there anymore. So they let me go. So if they have like it's a holiday episode and they needed someone to play the gingerbread man. And so, I
oh.
mean, you know, savvy viewers will be able to figure out who it is. Last year I played a candy cane man and it went a little, it got a little memed because the costume for the candy cane was very revealing. Like, and it was almost way worse. Uh, they put me in this like, you know, those cheap Halloween costumes that like they're bodysuits, right? That are
Oh,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
thin
yeah.
fabric and that like for a guy my size, it just shows everything. And they were like, we can see your junk. So we are going to have you wear a cup. And I'm like, I don't know if that's a good idea. And so m- minutes before the show is airing, I'm getting dressed and they're like, okay, here's your dance belt and your cup and like put all this on. And I walk downstairs and it is obscene the bulge that this cup makes in the front of this costume. And I'm like, are you sure? And they were like, no, take it off. We'll get you a second dance belt. So I had to wear two dance belts, which are the whole point of a dance belt is to remove any semblance of gender. And and so I wore that. But then they when Candy Cane Man came back for more holiday episodes, it was a completely different costume. So this year they nixed Candy Cane Man altogether, and I am a human gingerbread man, and he is funny. But it's completely covered. You can't even see my face. So my worst actor dreams come true.
Oh.
It's like,
Oh, I mean, no one knows gonna know it was you anyway, but, I mean,
nope.
if you woulda kept that
Until
cup.
unless they watch this podcast.
Yes. I was gonna say, unless you kept that cup and then the legend would spread, Travis Richey is hung.
No. Yeah, well, I mean, those who know. But
Ugh.
I've heard I've got MDE, like, right, medium D energy. Um,
Hey, it's better than SD, I guess.
true. I am comfortably above average, and I am okay with that. But I love this job. This day job is great. There's a great crew. It's the most fun I've ever had on a job, and I've been doing it a couple of years, and so now, like, it's just one of these things that's so lovely. And when I have to go get a couple days off to go do a TV show, like a regular role, they do that for me, and so I can do that and then just come back. And the nice thing about this day and age is that the pandemic made auditions all virtual. So
Oh,
nobody has in-person auditions anymore. It's all
nice.
self-tapes, which is great because the old problem with doing really any job, but like doing background work or being a stand-in or whatever, was that, well, you're not available for auditions, but now you're always available for auditions because you do them at home when you get home from work.
Oh, nice.
It's lovely.
Nice. Alright, I'm gonna let you go, sir.
Well, I'm gonna let me go.
You have been a delight. Thank you, sir.
Well, thanks.
Promote the book again.
The it's called The Vampire's Curse, Decimus Book 1. My name is Travis Richey. It's on wherever you find your ebooks, and then available in hardcover and softcover on Amazon, and available in audiobook if I ever get off my lazy butt and record the damn thing.
Oh, audiobook, there you go.
I know. I insisted on doing it myself, but I haven't actually done it myself. So I've got
I've
this nice microphone. What am I using it for?
Oh,
My
exactly. Oh, you could do that
podcast?
from home too. Yeah, that's right, alright.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Have you
Save some dinero renting out a studio, a sound studio.
have you done an audiobook before?
No.
Uh,
I've done some audio short stories, and I've learned a lot from that process. But I think one of the things about audiobooks is that I am talking way too, like, even my normal speaking voice, which I'm not a super fast talker, but I am definitely talking too fast. So, if I were to read a book, it has to be much slower. So, like, I'll read this notification on my screen. Google Updater added items that can run in the background. You can manage this in login items settings. That's how slow it has to be when you're
oh,
reading a
yeah,
book.
yeah.
And I'm not, it's unnatural to me.
Yeah, I know, that would be me. I'm like, can I do that for a whole book? I don't know.
Yeah, right. To force yourself to slow and be deliberate. But like, if you listen to audiobooks, they're so great. I
Oh,
love listening to the really good narrators. Mwah. What a skill. So I hope to develop that.
that'd be funny if you get a book and you get, like, like someone like Patrick Stewart to, like, narrate it or something.
I'll get Patrick Stewart to narrate my book.
Oh, you
And
gotta
then
write
the first vampire turns to the second vampire and says, "Make me you."
No, it'd be even better if it was, like, your biography or something, it was Patrick Stewart or somebody write or
Oh man,
reading
so many
it or
people I would love to have. I would love to have like a Christopher Walken type do my
Oh.
Travis grew up in a small town. Not many people there. Just a couple of thousand.
I would wanna know beforehand who was reading it because then you could just, like, put something in because if you knew if it was walking,
You just bullshit. You
it
just
would
play
be
with them
like
a little bit.
and then in 10th grade, I said, "I need more cowbell."
Yeah, exactly. I learned to do my Christopher Walken by I included him, an original Christopher Walken character, in my SNL audition once, but I learned how to do it by watching SNL, and I
Yeah.
would do all my impressions by learning by watching people do impressions. So like Christopher Walken was watching, I think, Kevin Spacey auditioning for Han Solo.
Mhm.
No, Kevin Spacey was doing Christopher Walken auditioning for Han Solo. So it was like, fast ship. You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon. It's the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. She's fast enough for you, old
Yeah.
man.
Yes, I watch Saturday Night Live every week. I want to see you on Saturday Night Live.
Oh man, that was my dream of dreams. That's what made me into an actor. I think was 10 years old. My mom pulled me into her bedroom to watch a church lady sketch for the first time, and it's special.
Yes, I remember that's like one of the first things I saw too. Yeah, the church lady. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Who could it be? Who could it be? Could it be Satan? Oh man, all those, and I loved bringing those characters, and so I don't know, your viewers who are watching the video can see there's I've got my good side lit, but I have Bell's palsy, which is a paralysis of one side of my face. I was born with it, and when I got to the age where teenage years, kids are just tiny little assholes, and so I was trying to find any way to fit in and make kids laugh with me instead of at me. And so I would take those Saturday Night Live characters into school with me and entertain my friends doing all those impressions. And so it was those early teenage years of discovering that through acting, I could entertain people and become someone else. That's what got me hooked. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, this is deep. This is deep. I like it.
Deep thoughts.
Yeah, a little therapy on Capes and Lunatics.
Yes. Oh, there we go. I need a couch now. All right. All right. But kids, go pick up Travis's book. Travis,
Yes.
Ed, you are a friend of the show now.
Well, thank you very much.
Anytime you want to promote anything, just shoot me an email. You have the email. Just shoot me like, Phil, I want to come on and promote something.
All right. Well,
Or
you'll be
if
into the Inspector book coming this spring sometime. I don't know. I don't even know when. But
Okay.
until then, if you haven't seen it, watch the Inspector Spacetime. The not Inspector Spacetime web series on the Travis Richey channel on YouTube. If you just search for it, or one of my other shows is called Two Hot Guys in the Shower, search for that, or Robot Ninja and Gay Guy. That's my first web series. It's great. You should watch that. All that stuff is on my YouTube channel.
So yeah, anytime you want to promote, let me know. Or if you just feel the hankering to, like, I don't know, talk to Spider-Man 2099, let me know.
Dude, well, didn't they? I mean, I loved seeing him in the latest Spider-Man movie, which was amazing. But did they not relaunch that series? I thought they did as a book.
They've been doing like a series of mini series lately. So, they'll do 5 issues and then they'll do like another 5-issue series and stuff. So I think there's another one coming in January, maybe.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'll totally chat with you again. What you need to do is assign me something to read.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah, definitely.
Say, hey, this book's out. I want to talk to you about it. I'll read it because I love to do, because I have not read comic books or graphic novels in ages. And just like my podcast is the reason that I listen to music at all. It'd be nice to have someone assign you homework to read. I don't know.
Oh, don't threaten me with a good time. Yeah, I'll figure out something for you. Yeah.
There you go. Awesome. Sounds good. All right, buddy. Well, thank you, Phil, for having me. This has been great.
No problem. Thank you. All right. Go out, get the book, kids.
Read it.
Right,
Make it so.
There's my ending.